So I don't know that we have a lot of time for questions and answers. It probably would be best to just hold your questions until we're at the end, and if we have time for them, we'll go over them. There's a lot of material to cover, and we've got an hour, right? Sounds good? All right. So here's the stuff we're going to cover today. We're going to start with just this presentation, which is kind of a presentation about presentations. We'll move into this concept of slide masters and slide layouts. Now, I'm going to sort of relate to the room here because I can see the people here, where I can't see the people in the other location. But how many of you are using PowerPoint already? Just about everybody. How many of you use slide masters and slide layouts? Fewer than actually use PowerPoint. Okay, good. Then you should find this useful, if for nothing else, for the talk about slide masters and layouts. We'll actually build the presentation as long as I can keep the balancing between screens going on okay here with all the technology involved. We'll add content to slides, and we'll use text boxes. We'll use video. We'll use some shapes. We'll do various other things to add to our presentation. We'll do a little bit of animating. And by the way, if you're watching the presentation now, what I just did, this is animation. It's very simple animation, but I'm bringing the text in using animation. Do some of you use animation? It's pretty simple to use, and you can. I think the biggest problem with animation is overdoing it, which I tend not to do. And then we'll talk about presenter notes, which I am using here and no one else can see. And Microsoft made it very difficult for the presenter to share the presenter notes with the presentees. So you'll just have to take my word on how those work. And we'll talk about some shortcuts, some time savers that I found work in my experience of many years using PowerPoint. Does that sound good?
Yep.
All right. So things we're not going to cover. This is not a class about creating charts. If you want to do charts, charting from data is really an Excel topic. Since Office 2007, which is 3 generations ago, Microsoft has had a single charting engine in Microsoft Office, and that has been Excel. In the older versions, they used to have a charting engine in PowerPoint and one in Word, and that was probably it. But now, if you know charts in Excel, you know charts in PowerPoint, and you know charts in Word, and so on and so forth. So that's a big topic in its own right, and it's an Excel topic, so we're not going to cover that. I'm not going to tell you what kind of content to use, and I'll give you a heads up. Those of you who can see me can see I'm kind of an old guy. This is the second career for me. I retired from my first career back in 2006 and started doing this training stuff. But I tend, at least in my business-related stuff, to be very conservative. I'm actually not a conservative in any way, shape, or form except for that. But I don't think that good presentations should be razzle and dazzle. I'm not a marketing person. So that prejudice, unfortunately, unfortunately or fortunately, depending on your perspective, although you all aren't marketing people, are you? No. So, I mean, marketing is the place where I think it's a good thing to do fancy stuff. But anyway, you choose the content. I'm not going to tell you that this content is good or this content is bad. And the same goes for the topics. I mean, if you want to do a PowerPoint presentation about your dog getting a shampoo or something, that's fine with me. This topic here is about PowerPoint, and I'm not really going to tell you which topics are appropriate for PowerPoint and which aren't. You're on your own for that. And if you say and stuff like that a lot, or you don't stand up straight, you forget your lines, all that kind of stuff. I'm not going to help you with that either. There are soft skills classes that handle how to do good presentations with or without PowerPoint. This is basically, as the Tech Talk tag implies, is a technical presentation. So those are the things we'll cover, and let's get into them. A couple of things of personality, definition, terminology. There are views in PowerPoint, and I'm going to be bouncing between them. Views here would include, and now I'm going to do my first transition here. I'm going to take you over to this. This is the presentation we're currently looking at. But let's see. I'm going to get to. It'll take me a minute to get warmed up on this. But let's see. We are down here. Here's the slide we're on. These are my presentation notes, by the way. I see them differently than this, but here's just a view of what I've set up to myself as I'm doing this. Have you used presentation notes, those of you who have used PowerPoint? They're quite helpful, and they're really helpful, especially if you don't read them. The only thing worse than reading your presentation notes as part of a presentation is reading the slides themselves. You don't want to do that. Anyway, here is the normal view. The normal view has thumbnails over here by default. It has the main window here, or the main pane here that shows the slide as it will appear in the slideshow, and then the notes down at the bottom. You can move between the views by using the View tab on the ribbon up here. The slide sorter view is a view I use a lot, and it makes it very easy to organize your presentation. I've divided, as I do most of my presentations that are more than 2 or 3 slides, I've divided them into sections, and I've called this first section, and this here's a little detour, and here's a presentation technique. I learned this many, many years ago, and early in my career, back before PowerPoint, when you had overhead projector and transparencies. You never see those things anymore, but a boss of mine taught me, when you do a presentation, you tell them what you're going to tell them, you tell them, and then you tell them what you told them, right? And if you live by those 3 words, you probably can't go too far wrong in your presentations. I've lived by them for a few decades now. Anyway, this is my tell them what you're going to tell them section, and that's where we are now. Then there's a bunch of subsections on tell them. We'll talk about masters and layouts and so on and so forth, and then we'll end up with a tell them what you told them slide. Right, so I've got sections. Do you all use sections? They're pretty cool, actually, and they really help me. Oh, we'll get to that. We'll get to that. Right? I'm just showing you the views now. There's also notes pages, and this is the notes page of the slide we were looking at. I have to toggle back to the presentation to see that again. But this is the stuff that I'm seeing on my presenter view. And those of you who are in the room, by the way, could see the presenter, but you'd have to come over here. I spent a lot of time yesterday trying to figure out how to swap with the Windows version of PowerPoint, swap it between the projector and at least this computer, and couldn't find a good way to do it. So I can't show you the presenter view itself. Although if you use PowerPoint, you've probably at least seen it. It's a neat little view. So I've set up a style for my notes here, and I've added a lot of notes to them, and I'm using them as I go through the slides. Then there's also, the reading view is really basically the same as the slideshow view. It's just intended to be used without a projector. Then there are these master views, and we're going to spend a good deal of time talking about those. So those are the views. And let's see, switch back to my presentation. The slideshow view is what I'm in now. This is what you're showing to your audience. Animations are those things that basically make like the text, for example, or any other type of object in PowerPoint move around, and you have exits, you have entrances, and so on. And then transitions are they're kind of a special purpose animation, and it's what it looks like when you move from one slide to another. And again, you can do all kinds of stuff there. I tend to try and keep it conservative. These are just the views we looked at. Let's see. So that was a transition. See how these slides just sort of go boom, boom, one to the next. When I do this one, it transitions using a fade out or a swipe transition to get to the section slide for our next section, which is slide masters and layout. So these section header slides, as they're called, are basically coordinated with my sorter view that has, so each section in my sorter view has one of these slides, except for the first section, which has the title slide. All right? So to get into that, slide masters, here's what they are. They're collections of attributes. You set up a lot of stuff. For example, I set up this banner here. I just copied this from your website, and then I added a text box here, and I made it italics, and I set the size of it, and I made it not black, kind of a grayish color. I've added a line under here, and I've set up the rules for the indenting and the bulleting in my slides, and all of those are collections of attributes that affect the appearance. I guess you can also say the footers down here are the same way. They're always behind the scenes. If you've worked with slide masters, you know this. I'll talk about this later, but a slide master is always associated with a theme. And what the main thing, well, there are several things about slide masters. They definitely support consistency. Every slide that I show, with 1 or 2 exceptions, which are intentional and purposeful, I have this banner on it with this text box, and I also have this red line under certain slides. It's always in exactly the same place, always exactly the same colors. And I don't have to put it on each slide because I have it on the slide master level. So it basically gives you built-in consistency between your slides, which is generally a good thing, particularly in a relatively conservative business environment. So the slide masters then serve as there's a relationship with a thing called a layout, which we'll talk about next. And a slide master is basically a parent and can have many child layouts. The parent gives its attributes to its children, and then you can work with the layouts, the children objects, to fine-tune them. In most cases, in my experience, you only need one slide master per presentation, although you can have multiple. And I'll explain why that would be valuable in a minute. And then each of the, you can also have handout masters and notes masters. So I've handed out, did everyone get a handout? It's kind of a very simplistic handout, but that is from the formatting on there that shows in the upper left-hand corner a Stanford LBRE Tech Talk and then the date going clockwise around the page number and then Stanford Technology Training. That all is stuff that's set up at the handout master. There's a slide master, there's also a handout master. I set that stuff up, and including the number of pages that I'm displaying there and so on and so forth. And the notes master is also something that you can set up so you don't have to reformat every note that you write, the formatting and the bullets and numbering and all that. Oops. So moving right along. Slide layouts, as I said, inherit the slide master attributes, and we'll go into that in more detail in a minute. They're the child. Once you set up the slide master with those fixed attributes, like the banner on the top and the Tech Talk and the red line under the title and so on and so forth, that will be the default for all of the rest of the slides in your presentation. If you want to have minor variations between one slide and another, you can set up different layouts to do that, and they will contain variations from the slide master, which you will find very useful. The individual slides that are in your slideshow are actually attached to slide layouts, which in turn are attached to the slide master. It's a hierarchy there. And the layouts support different types of content and typically use placeholders. Now we'll see what all that means in a minute. It's not a perfect representation of reality, but it's conceptually very close. This is what a PowerPoint slide has, whether you know it has it or not. There's a slide background. In this case, I just have a white background on this slideshow. There's a background style, like I could use a gradient color. There are theme colors. That's a whole subject in its own right throughout Microsoft Office. Then you have background graphics. And then you have these placeholders, like this slide is built on a placeholder that has a bunch of text boxes as placeholders. And then the slide itself has the actual objects occupying those placeholders. And then if you want to, you can have chart ink or slide ink on top of that. Let's see, I'll do a quick demo of this. At least I think I can. Yeah, if I do a pointer option and go pen, I can add ink to the slide. And this is actually another layer on top of the presentation. Unless you've got a pen, though, and a tablet, you're not going to get very good drawings out of it. But that's slide ink, and that's the final layer, really, of this. And I'm going to take this.
What you're saying, I'm sorry.
Go ahead. Oh, yeah, well, yeah. Probably should. Otherwise, we'll not cover all the material, which is very, very different from the typical teaching I do. But and I'll stick around afterwards too if you have questions. Okay, so anyway, that's conceptually the structure that we were just talking about. So now let's build the presentation. And now I'm going to actually switch to another view here. I'm going to go back to the actual slideshow. I'm going to switch to normal view, and I'm going to start a new slideshow. So we'll talk a little bit about this quick access toolbar. Has anyone used this who are using Office now? It works in Excel, Word, PowerPoint. So I've added a bunch of commands up here that I use frequently. And I'm going to just click the new command here, which will bring up a new slideshow. And you should all see that now, right? So we've got two slideshows going, plus the presenter notes in the background, plus the slideshow view of the other presentation. little bit confusing, but that's where you have it. All right, so what I'm going to do now is switch to the Slide Master view by going to the View tab and just clicking on Slide Master. So here's the Slide Master, and the graphic metaphor here is that this is kind of the head honcho, this is the parent in the relationship, and these are all the layouts. Typically, or by default, you will have a single slide master, and then you will have all of these built-in slide layouts, some of which aren't terribly useful in your average presentation. So what I'm going to do is start this slideshow start creating this by modifying the slide master. Now, I could put another theme on it. I have the default theme, which is sort of like no theme. I think it's called Office Theme, and currently it's used by all of my slides. I can put things like this on it. At the end of the day, I just don't like any of these very much. You get this live preview, but these themes are collections of background graphics, color families, color collections, font collections, and Microsoft had spent a lot of money and effort getting graphics designers to set up these things with complementary features. So, for example, if I click on this one, this is one I can almost tolerate. No, this is the one I can tolerate. You can see that the master looks like this, and each of the layout has some slight variations on that, on the background graphics. Remember that layer we talked about? So the themes come with all that stuff built in. You can work on these things. I can delete those if I want to from my slide master. But basically, the idea is you have one theme and you apply it to the slide master, and all of the slide layouts inherit that, unless you tell them not to. So I'm going to go back to my conservative one, though, because really I just want this to be a conservative presentation. When you're imparting information to people, which is sort of what I do now for a living, I want to focus on the stuff that I want them to learn, and in this case, it's the technical aspects of PowerPoint, not the things that razzle and dazzle. So that content in the background, you can go hog wild on that in your own presentations, but I'm going to sort of leave you with that thought, and then I'm going to go merrily along with this one. Is that okay? Good. All right, so what I want to do, though, is I want my slides actually, instead of have this centered, I want them to be left adjusted. So I'm going to go to the Home tab here and left adjust the title placeholder, as it's called. And if I wanted to, I could say, well, down here, I want this to be a different bullet. So I'm going to change this bullet kind of arbitrarily to a different shape. I'll put this bullet down there. And now I don't like the size of it, so I'm going to come down here again, go to bullets and numbering, and I'm going to just make that like around 50% of the original bullet size. Okay. So I've changed that bullet. Still doesn't look that great, but you get the idea, right? What I'm doing is I am modifying, I'm customizing my slide master for my presentation that I'm building. I also want to put a graphic on it, and I want that to be on all of the slides. So I'm going to go, I actually got this from your website. Have you ever used the screen or the snipping tool, I think it's called, in Windows? I just did that. I was going to demo that, but it takes a little more time, and I don't want to spend the time on it. But that's what I did to get this. I just went to your website, did the snipping tool, copied and pasted into the slide. Here I'm just going to insert an image. So I'll go to Insert, Picture. I have a folder set up. That's not it. I do a lot of work at Stanford. Let's see, where did I have it? Here it is. Images. And it was this guy right here. So it'll put it down there. I'm going to move it up to the top. And I'm going to add my text box that says Tech Talk. So I'll do another Insert, Text Box. I'll just draw a little text box here and type in Talk, and here's a keyboard shortcut that I really like. When you're working in PowerPoint, you have two modes when you're working with an object. You have the edit mode, and then you have the I'm going to call it the move mode, although it's much more than that. The dashed lines mean I'm in edit mode, and I can click in here and edit individual pieces of text. If I want to work with the whole box, I press Function key F2. I don't know if you've used that, but that then changes the border, and now I'm going to be dealing with the entire object. So I'm going to change the font to that kind of gray color, and I'm going to make it italics. And I'm going to move it to over here, so it kind of balances with this. You know, beauty's in the eye of the beholder, and I'm not spending a lot of time on the details here. Now, since I've done the banner, I really need to make this a little bit different, so I'm going to bring it down to here, leave the font size as is, maybe move it down just slightly. Another shortcut is, now I want to put this in in move mode, so I'm going to, there's F2, it's in edit mode, there's F2, it's just a toggle, it's in move mode. I'm going to tap the down arrow key. Now, if you want really fine granularity in the movement, if you hold down the control key while you're using the arrow keys, either up or down, it'll essentially move it like 1 pixel at a time. It's a more granular movement than just using the arrow keys. All right, so let's say that that's good enough. All right, I'm going to leave that as is. I've made this left adjust. I've changed the bullet, added a couple of graphics, so on and so forth. Now I'm going to go to my layouts. And first, let me see if there's anything I need to tell you about layouts. So we started a new presentation. We applied the theme and then sort of unapplied it, or went back to the simpler theme. I added a picture to customize the slide. I added a text box, the text talk, and I modified the text structure. In other words, I put the different bullet into the second paragraph. All right, so let's see. I want to go there already. Ignore that for now. All right, so now I'm going to go to the layouts. I've been working on the slide master. I want to go to the slide layout, and I'll go back here to this. There we are. This is my new presentation. And so I'm going to look at this layout. Now, this is the title slide layout. And if I hover the pointer there, you can see the screen tip says title slide layout, right? And it's used by one slide, which is the slide that's in the slideshow now. It's the only slide in the slideshow. And what I want is, I don't want this to be left adjusted. This is an exception, whereas all the other slides, I want the title to be left adjusted. I want this one to be center aligned. So I'm just going to click in the object somewhere and click centered. So that one is centered on that layout only. And I'll look down at another layout here, and what I want to do now is I want to spice this up a little. I want to have one of my slide options, or this is the one I'm going to use the most. And you'll notice that it inherited my changed bullet here, as well as inheriting the graphics that I added. That's because it's a child of the slide master. I'm going to add another graphic, which is kind of just a red underscore under the title for this slide. So I'm going to go to Insert again, and you could do this with just a shape. I happen to think, well, here, I want exactly the color from Stanford's website. And so what I did is I copied and made an image out of just a thin line of that same top part of your website, and I converted the picture essentially into a shape, into a line shape. I put it up here, and then I'm going to unlock the aspect ratio because I want to make it a lot thinner. And then I'm going to change this, I think this will work, to just 0.02 to make it much thinner, or it should. And I'm going to reduce the size of it here so that it fits. In the real world, I might spend a little more time sizing it, but you get the idea here, right? So I got a nice little Stanford color underline. See, I moved that and I didn't want to. So I'll do. My favorite keyboard shortcut, or one of my favorites, is Control-Z. I don't know if you use that. Control-Z, Control-S. Anyone not use Control-S, like regularly throughout the day? In Excel and Word and PowerPoint?
What's Control-S?
Control-S is save. There's like no reason not to use it. If you haven't already developed a reflex, no matter what you're working on in Microsoft Office, for when the phone rings or an email pop-up comes in, you're gonna leave your focus here. Just train yourself to do Control-S before you do anything else. Someone pops in your cubicle, go, just a second, Control-S, yes, may I help you? Then you'll avoid losing stuff. Okay, so let's see. What else do I want to do on the layout here? I want to add a couple other layouts. This is my section header, and it's okay the way it is. I'm just going to go with the default, which is defined by the theme. Even though you may not like this one, it grows on you. This slide I don't really need. I'm not going to do any dual content slides. So I'm going to delete that one and the next one. So I'm just going to Control-Shift to get both of them, right-click, and delete. You can always add layouts. And I don't like the built-in clutter here. There's always more than I need. In fact, while I'm at it, I'll just click a bunch of these and delete them. I think the rest of them here I want to get rid of. So I delete. You can rename the layouts and do all kinds of stuff with them. Let's see. This is now this is the same as this first one that I was working on, except it doesn't have the underscore, the red line under it, and it doesn't have a placeholder for other content. And then there's simply a blank page. And if I want another blank page, I can add one. In fact, I'm going to duplicate this slide, layout, sorry. And on this one, though, although it's exactly the same, I want a really blank one. So I'm going to say hide the background graphics. So now I've got this one, which has the default, including the background graphics from the parent master, slide master. And this is exactly the same, but this is my really blank slides, well, except for the footers. And I'll rename it just for good measure. I'll right-click on it, click Rename Layout, and instead of using the generic name, or in addition to that, I'll just click over here and say No Banner. So when I want to choose that later, I'll be able to identify it by name. Everyone with me here? Okay. So let's see. Next step. I'm going to add some slides now. So I have to get out of the slide master view, which is where I've been, and I'm going to actually add the title slide and a couple of content slides. Actually, the title slide is already there. So I'll close the master view, which takes me back to normal view for my new presentation. And you'll see, even though I had all those layouts, I only have one slide here. So that's what's by default you get when you start a new presentation. So I could click on here and add the title. I'll do that later, though. I'm going to just focus on structure right now. So I'm going to add a new slide. So I'm going to click the bottom half of this button. You can see it's really two buttons. Click the bottom half, and I want this one to be my title and content, which it probably would be by default. So now you can see I've got the inherited banner, and I couldn't select these and do something with them even if I wanted to. I'm clicking on them now, and nothing's happening. To add a title, I would just click here and replace the placeholder with real content. And if I wanted to add a table or a video, and we'll do stuff like that, or pictures, I could use these placeholders, or any number of other ways too. So I can add more slides if I want, which I'll populate later. Put in a couple of these. And I could also duplicate the slides. And then I'll put in a section header as well. Although, let's see. I want to do the section header from the slide sorter. So let's go to, I'm going to add one more slide here, a couple more. A blank, and then a real blank, so you can see the difference. All right, now I'm going to go to slide sorter view, and I'm going to insert, I can do this in any number of ways, but I'm just going to do it here because I like the visual nature of it. I'm going to say that these first three slides, in addition to the title slide, are my first section, and this starts my second section. So I'll click down here, and I'll come up to the Home tab again and click on Section, add a section, which it will do. And since I'm adding a section, it will set up another one for one that I don't have here.
It's like page break or like Word. It just
yeah, except it's that's what it is. Yeah, because it doesn't actually have any impact whatsoever on the slideshow itself when you're showing it. There's nothing there that makes it visible. Although you can hide sections and so on and so forth from the presentation. Yeah, storyboard is probably the most apt description. So I'm going to, just for good measure, rename it from the default, and I'll call this my Tell 'em what you're, that's too long, gonna tell 'em. And then this one I'll call my Tell 'em section. Or whatever. I mean, and I'll leave the spelling mistake there. I'm a technical person. If you want to be a bona fide technical person, you have to misspell things. So there, I've proven it. Okay, so I've got these two sections. I can add as many as I want. Beg your pardon?
I hope you're paid well.
Yeah.
I'll feel better about that.
All right, yeah. Okay, so, and I should be doing Control S here all along, so this is a classic example of do as I say, not as I do, because I don't really care if this one gets lost, but for example, if this were the presentation I was working on earlier in the week to show you, I would have been saving it all the time. These Microsoft products are good, but they do have a lot of bugs in them, and they do crash, especially when you ask them to do things out of the ordinary. Okay, so anyway, I've added some slides now, some content slides. I'm looking at them in sorter view, but I haven't really put anything on them yet. So let's go back to normal view, which I'll do. I can put I've put some of these views on the quick access toolbar. I can put in a title here, so I'll start typing. And notice that this title on the title slide is centered. Remember I did that in the layout? I'll just call this my presentation, and I'll call it a show for LBRE, right? So now I'm actually putting stuff, I'm putting content, I'm replacing the placeholders with, or I'm putting content into the placeholders. In this case, I'm putting text in the placeholders. So let's see what else we can put on our slide. I'm going to go back to the slideshow for a second here. And let's see, I've created the title slide, I created content slides. So now let's move to the next one in our show here. I organized them with slide sorter, and now I've added, I didn't add the header section slides. I added a section, but now I'm going to identify that section with a different layout, with a header layout, and it'll make more sense when I do it. And then I'll add headers and footers to them, and then we'll come back here again. So once again, back to my slideshow in progress, and let's see, I'll go to slide sorter again just because it's easier to see it there. And so right here in front of this first content slide, I will go new slide, and I'll use the section header layout that I had in my layout. All right, so now I'll go ahead and start populating some of these things. By the way, if you want to get back to normal view from sorter view, and you know which slide you want to have displayed, you can just double click on a slide in the slide sorter, and it'll bring you to it, in this case, the second slide. So I can put a title in here. This is a title, and then I can put in content. So just to demonstrate how the content works from my slide master and the layouts, I'll type in now is the time, and I'll use the tab key to indent in my bullet structure for all good men and women, and then I'll tab again to come to the aid. Everyone see what I'm doing here? Right, and then if I want to promote a bullet within that structure, I just shift tab instead, and that takes me back one level. If I want to start another one, I do shift tab again to come to the aid of their country. Everyone with me on this? When I'm doing the tab and shift tab, very useful. There are other ways to do it too. You can use the menus, like these are indent commands. I just like the keyboard shortcuts when they're available for some reason. Okay? What?
I just said for some reason.
For some reason. They're faster, I think. Do you use keyboard shortcuts?
I want to learn them.
Yeah. Good. All right, we're going to cover that in a little more detail. Let's see. All right, headers and footers now. Those were set up on the slide master, but I haven't inserted them yet. I can do this from anywhere, actually. What I'm going to do is go to Insert, Header and Footer, and you can see a little thumbnail of what it's going to look like. These are the three placeholders that are on the slide master. The date and time, and you can choose either to update dynamically, which I'll do here, or you could fix a date and type in whatever you want. I also want the slide number, which will go on the side over here, and then I can have some kind of constant, just some text that I type in, and I'll type in, I think I had something like part of a series of Tech Talk presentations. Right, again, so you can tell I'm a technical person here. And importantly, you want to pay attention to this detail. Typically, it's bad form to have the footer information on the title slide. So I don't know why this isn't defaulting to don't show, but it doesn't, so I'm going to select that checkbox. So, and then another important detail, if I only want this to be on this current slide, I would click Apply. If I want it on all of the slide except for the title, then I click Apply to All, and you'll sort of see if you look closely in the thumbnails here, it's popped up now. My typo included. All right? Okay, so let's, and there are headers and masters for masters and for headers, let's see, go View, for, there's a handout master, and I have populated these things on the handout that you physically have instead of using just the generic information there. And on the notes master, which I will go to now, I've set up this formatting. Actually, I had a little bit of difficulty because I usually work in Office 2013, and I unfortunately discovered at the last minute that not everything translates back to PowerPoint 2010. But you can set up bullets and formatting on your notes just like you can on a slide itself, on the slide master, and then all of your notes will have that same formatting. I'm going to spend a lot of time on that though, so let's get out of that. And let's go now to back to the slideshow and move on. So here is what a section header looks like. So now I've walked through some of the things that we've done. I've added some content to the slides. I populated the title and subtitle placeholders. I added some structured text content. Basically, that means I added bulleted text, and I indented and outdented to change the level in the outline. I haven't inserted a picture yet. Let's do that, and then let's annotate the picture. So there was in our slideshow an item that we didn't look at. Here it is. This is explaining the secret to getting bullets and numbers aligned properly. Has anyone used these things either in PowerPoint or in Word? Has anyone looked at them and kind of wondered how in the heck do these things work and never bothered to really figure it out? That's where I was for several years until I actually did figure them out. But we're gonna replicate this on our next slide. So I'm going to go back to my content slides. Here we are, and annotating the picture. So once again, back to our slideshow or our presentation in progress. Let's go to a content slide, a title slide with content, which is this one, and let's add a picture. So I'm just going to, you can do this a number of ways. I kind of like these little icons down here. So I'll just click on picture, and it remembers the last folder, and this happens to be a screenshot of that ruler in PowerPoint. So I'll just double-click that to bring it in. So there I've got my picture, and now I'm going to insert a shape to highlight emphasize, focus on the part of that picture that I want. The rest of the picture is just there for content, or context rather. And so I'll go to insert shapes. I'll use the rounded rectangle because that seems like a pretty good one, and I will draw a border, and by default it's going to be filled with a color. So I will go to Format. Now that I have my object selected, I have an extra tab on the ribbon here, which I can now click and do things to that selected object. I'm going to make the shape fill to no fill, so I can see through it. I'm going to make the shape outline red, a theme color red, and I'm going to make it a little heavier too, just for good measure, so it really stands out. That's a little too far. All right, so then I can resize it and rotate it and move it and do all kinds of stuff like that. You probably already know how to do that. And then if I wanted to, I can add text. So I could just insert a text box that says what these things are. So I go to Insert, Text Box. And this would be like first line, indent. And I would want to make that a little bit bigger. And I could, then draw another shape that would be a line connecting the description to the actual icon on here. All right? So everyone with me on annotating a picture? Got it. Okay, and I would probably put a title on there too. Let's see, the other thing I wanted to do then, let's go back. Okay, we annotated the picture, audio and video content. Now, with this version of Office, you're severely limited by what's called the codecs that come with PowerPoint, so you can only use certain types of video files, and I'm not going to get into all the technical aspects of that, but that was another thing that I realized when I converted my presentation from 2013 to 2010 is that you've got a lot more limitations in 2010. I had to really quickly find a video, which I will do here, and I'll insert it in here, and I'll show you the basic editing. It's kind of a silly video. But what I'll do is I'll just click on this. This is a video, or they call it a media clip in this version. And I happen to have one Windows Media video file, which is somewhere in the Windows directory. I'll double-click on that. So this is a very simple video. This is what it does. And it does that, like, over and over again. That's it, though. So what I'm going to do, though, I want to just demonstrate. One, I got the video in there, but what I'm going to do when I select it, I can go in and they're crude, but they are useful video editing tools. I can trim the video. So if I click on Trim Video here, I can tell it not to start at the beginning, but rather to start after the first hand swipe. So I'm going to move it up to here. That's going to be my starting point. and I can tell it to end. I don't want all of this stuff in there. I really just want it to be swiped once or twice. So here, I'll go there. That's where I'll end it. See what I'm doing? Now you may use, there are much better video editing tools in the world. This is just the crude one that comes with PowerPoint. And I can test it if I want here, but I'm just going to go with that. That's going to be good enough for me. And then when I run the slideshow, I want to do one other thing. I'm going to start it on click. And actually, I'm not. I'm going to tell it to start automatically, so when the slide is displayed, it will just automatically play the video. So I'll start here just for laughs, and I will start on the current slideshow. Here's another couple of keyboard shortcuts. F5 will start a slideshow from the beginning, function key F5. Shift F5 will start it from the current slide, either from the normal view or the slide sorter view. You can also put this slideshow from current slide on the quick access toolbar, which is what I've got here. So now, let's see what happens if I play this video. So I move to the slide. I don't touch anything after getting to the slide, and it executes the video for me just fine. And it stops when it gets to the end. All right? And I can resize this and do all kinds of things with it as an object in my PowerPoint presentation. Okay, so we've edited the video. Let's go to animating objects, getting into the home stretch here. There we go. So animating objects, text, we already saw how we worked with text on those first slides. It was very limited, the amount of animation that we did, but it was probably appropriate for the type of audience that we're working with here. You can do neat things with the animation timeline. Have you all worked with animation? Have you worked with the timeline to show things that start and they overlap or they start after the other, so on and so forth? Let's do some of that just to show how it works. Then we'll move on to presenter notes. So I'll move on to another slide here, and I'll just, whoops, that's a section header, so I'll move on to this one. And I'll just put an object in. I'm going to go with a couple of shapes. So I'll insert shapes. I'm going to go with square shapes. And here's another shortcut that you may find useful. If you want an exact square, then you use the rectangle shape, but you hold down the Shift key when you're resizing it, and it will freeze the aspect ratio to a perfect square. And, of course, you can copy objects, and most people will right-click or do Control-C. This is how I like to copy in PowerPoint. And by the way, I also like to copy this way in Word and Excel. You click on the object, start dragging it, and then before you drop it, press the Control key and then drop it. And then you can do that again and again. So you can do it much quicker that way than if you are Control-C, Control-V. Plus you can drag it right to the location where you want it. And then aligning shapes. I'm going to take a little detour here on shapes because this aligning stuff is really good. I saw someone the other day painstakingly aligning these things so they were equidistant. So what I want is I want these objects to be aligned so that they are equidistant from the rightmost to the leftmost and from the topmost to the bottommost. So I'm going to select all of the objects, and I'm going to go to the Format tab here, go to Alignment, and I'm going to distribute horizontally. And you'll see that it nudges them as needed so that they're exactly spaced the same horizontally, and then I'll do the same thing vertically. I may have already gotten it perfect, but no, moved a couple of them up. So if you're using the arrow keys or dragging objects around, you don't want to do that. The alignment commands are very powerful and far more precise than you can be with dragging and using the arrow keys. So now that I've got those on there, I can animate them. So I'm just going to select them all just for laughs, and I'm going to go to the Animations tab. I'm going to display the animations pane because that makes it easier to see what's going on with my animating. And I'm going to do a couple of things here. There are entrances, there are exits, and there are emphasis. I'm going to go with emphasis now, which means the object will be displayed when I come to the chart. It will do the emphasis thing, and then it will leave the object on the chart. It won't enter and it won't exit with animation. So let's see. I think I had one with spinning. This one is probably a good one. All right? So each of these are a group, but they're all showing here. So I could go in here and have them be delayed if I wanted to. I can have them start previous or start after previous. And now you see I've got this. It almost looks like a little Gantt chart, right? So now let's see what happens when I display this. Actually, I'll use the preview here. So I've animated them not completely independently from each other, but you get the idea, right? And I can change the timeline on that. There's all kinds of animation options that are available, both effects and the timing. So I can have it start with the previous, after the previous, on click, and I can tell it how long to be there. I can tell it to delay before it starts, and so on and so forth. Lots of stuff you can do with animation. And last but not least on animation, the motion paths. If you haven't messed around with these, you probably want to. It's a lot of fun. So I'm going to take a shape here, another shape, and my shapes. There we are. Do a circle this time. I want a perfect circle. Press the Shift key, the Shift key, and it'll force it to be a perfect circle. And then I'll animate it with a motion path. So I'm going to go animate, and I'll do the custom path just because you can do crazy things with it. And then I'll just draw this path. Like, whoops, is that? Yeah, I think that's going to work. And when I'm done, I'll press Escape, and now you can see my object follows that crazy path that I drew. So let's just go back and look at our slideshow before we go on to presenter notes. And now I'm just pressing the arrow keys here to advance from one slide to the next. Get my video running. I'll move on. Get my shapes that start on a click. We don't have to watch them all. I'll move on to the next one. And it defaults to starting on click, so it does its little thing, and then the slideshow goes to an end. Right? Okay, boy, I'm losing them fast here. I better hurry up. Yeah, we're almost done. Okay, so that's motion paths, and let's take a quick trip back to the slideshow. And presenter notes. Presenter notes are very useful, although you don't want to overuse them. Again, that's probably outside the scope of this presentation, but using presenter notes and creating presenter notes is an art in its own right if you're doing presentations. You don't want to have them be so verbose that you spend time fumbling around looking at them and reading them, to the extent that you can just put triggers that will tell you this is what you wanted to say at this point. You'll be better off. You can use them in the presenter's view, which is what I've been doing. You can also use them if you wanted to. If you didn't have two monitors, or you only had the projector and a keyboard, you could print the slides with the notes, and different from a handout printout. You can print the notes pages, and then you could, as a presenter, you could refer to those as you were going through your presentation. And last but not least, if in some situations you might say, well, gee, I don't want to have too much stuff in my slides. And my slides, I believe, are fairly busy. I've seen people who put 10 times that much text on slides, and it just makes me go crazy to sit through a presentation like that. So mine are pretty busy, but in the absence in order to get away from that busyness, one of the alternatives that you can use is to write notes as if they were for your audience, as if they were going to be handouts, and then use your notes pages printouts instead of handouts, or in addition to handouts. And then they can see all the detailed information, however you want to spell it out on the slide notes, while you're focusing on the bullets and the minimum amount of text and objects that are on your presentations themselves. Okay, and you can format the notes master. It's a little bit tricky to use the bullets. So let's see. Is that what I want to show you with my time left, though? Maybe I'll leave that and send it to you in the PowerPoint presentation. The master view has its own headers and footers. Yeah. So if you're interested in that bulleted text is awkward but statement, look for the slide presentation when I send it out. It'll have more explanation on that. I just don't want to spend the time on it right now because we're almost out of time. Okay. Is that a question? Well, no, you can't ask questions. All right, sorry. All right, so reusing slides. This is one of the most important things that I think I'll show you today. If you set up a slide library, and you can do this with SharePoint, there's a whole elaborate like sharing mechanism that's set up, but I'm still struggling. I've been using SharePoint for years, and I'm still struggling with it. And it just, I don't think Microsoft has quite got it down yet. Maybe your organization has better implementation than what I've seen. But anyway, you can also do it with simple slides on a server. So what I'm going to do is go to my slide presentation here. I'm going to put in a couple more, just another slide here down at the bottom. And what I'm going to do is reuse slides. Now, I have set up for my own use a presentation that I call like Ted's repository of slides or something like that. It's not on a server. It is in Dropbox for me, so I can access it anywhere. You, as a work group, could put it onto a server, and everyone could access it, or you can just put it on your own system. But here's what I do: if I'm going to insert slide, if I'm going to add a slide, I go to Home, New Slide, and then I take this option for Reuse Slides. And here, it will remember the last item that you had. And if you're doing a SharePoint presentation, then you can go here to the slide library. But if you're just using a file on a server or on your own system, you come here, and I'm just going to click Go there. And it gives me a thumbnail of all of these slides. I do a lot of Excel teaching, and so I have templates essentially for the various presentations I do. I'm going to show you this one. This is one that I use all the time at Stanford. So I'm going to click on this thumbnail and bring that in. So now that slide is part of my slideshow, and you might notice that it's also inherited the theme and the slide master for my current slideshow, not the one that it came from. And what this is, by the way, if you don't know this already, if you work at Stanford and you want to upgrade to Office 2013, you can do so for free. Now, you might have policies with your IT people that you have to work around too, but when I teach at Stanford, I'm surprised to how few people actually seem to know about this. And 2013 is definitely better than 2010, although it's about to be obsolete because 2016 is just around the corner. And I'll include this in the slide presentation for you. But you get this idea of reuse. So I don't have to hunt around for this or anything. I have everything in this one repository, and if I want to use something from there, I just go there, find it. It has the descriptions. I just incorporate it into my own slideshow. So last but not least then, we'll go back. We did aligning objects. We didn't do the quick access toolbar. Here's what I'll close with. The three things you can do with the quick access toolbar. Three techniques. One is to click here, and anything above this line here that doesn't have a check mark is not on the quick access toolbar. If it has a check mark, it is. So I'm going to click print and print preview, and you can see that that adds it to the quick access toolbar. Method one. Method two is, what if I wanted to put this this slideshow command for custom slideshow on the quick access toolbar? I can right click on any command on the ribbon, and then just take the top option here to add to quick access toolbar. And now that command, even if I'm back here on the ribbon, if I click that command, it's available to me on the quick access toolbar, the right click method. If you really want to go wild with this, you can go to like the animations tab, and I could put this whole group. I'm going to right click on animation here, the group title, and add that to the quick access toolbar. Now, you could, if you put everything on the quick access toolbar, it kind of defeats the whole purpose of it. So now I can access this. And if you want to take something off the quick access toolbar, you just right click and remove from quick access toolbar. Okay, so we also talked about dragging with modifiers, so I think we are basically done.
Can we ask a question?
So with the time that I lost because of technical difficulties, can I field questions?
Yes.
Okay. So if you have questions, ask.
So I have a question. So on this slide right here, how do you set things up so that you only see the first bullet, and then you click and the second bullet appears, and then the third bullet
Animation.
appears?
So here, let's just do it real quick, if that's okay.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to get out of the slideshow view.
That drives me crazy.
Don't do it for Gene.
No, right.
I don't know how to. It's better to learn.
I just crashed my PowerPoint, but let's see. I think I'm okay. All right. So to do that, here's actually to do them one at a time. You can select the whole group, or the whole placeholder, and then they'll all come in at once. If you want them to come in one at a time, then you have to animate them one at a time. So I'll select views here, I'll go to animation, and let's just take a different one for each one, just for laughs. So I'll have that one fly in. I can change the direction too, and let's see, so fly in.
So you put your bullets in there, whether,
Yeah.
1 or 2 or 10 or whatever.
Yep.
That's the first task.
That's the
and
first
then you go
task.
to the animation task and...
Exactly so.
Okay.
So I'll bring up the animation pane then. So now, then this one I want to be the split, and it gives me a preview of that, whether I want. But see, I didn't
I think
select.
you want the appear.
I just want them to come in one at a time.
Yeah,
But-
just appear.
Now,
but
I didn't
but I don't
select
teach.
the one item. So I need, if I only want it to control one, then I have to select that one. So I'll have this one be the split, right? And then this one I'll have come in with, let's see, with bounce. And then this one I'll have come in.
Probably use just the appear or fade.
Appear.
Yeah.
Maybe if
That's what I recommend. Have this one come in with a motion path.
That's
Right.
what you would, yeah.
So now you can see all of this up here, and this is where you can play with the timeline, and you can automate. You can have them come in one after the other,
Right.
without having to click, or you can tell each one to wait until you clicked on it. And so on and so forth. Right?
Okay, very good. Thank you.
Other questions?
You did the ink thing.
Oh yeah.
Which mode were you in when you did the ink?
The ink thing really only works. It only makes sense if you're in the slideshow itself. So here-
Does that could take the place of the pointer? Could it?
Well, it is the pointer. It's just that the pointer is putting ink down in addition to pointing.
No, instead of who has the laser pointer.
Yes.
When you're at the back of the room and you're digging for that and you're saying, here, I'll show it. There could actually be somebody at the laptop that could draw and say, I want to bring your attention to this.
Yes, absolutely. All you do is you right click. Oh, here's another shortcut I meant to show you is if in the slideshow view you press F1, function key F1, it gives you all this really cool information about shortcuts just for the slideshow. So if I want to switch to the pen, basically, let's see, how do I do that? Ink, here it is. Control P will change the pointer to a pen. So I'm going to do that right now. It's an arrow now. If I do Control P, when I'm in this view, now I have a pen.
What did you press to get the shortcut?
Yeah, what was that?
F1. That's the universal help key in Windows. Function key F1. And by the way, when you've drawn stuff on your slideshow, when you have ink objects, when I exit from the slideshow, it'll ask me,
Want to save?
do I want to keep the ink annotations? If I keep them, then basically they're objects that I can move around, either individually or as a group. Those ones you probably wouldn't want to save, but you could copy them to other slides. You could put them on a slide master. You could do anything. You could do any other object on it. You look perplexed.
Well, it just seems to me like a really helpful tool, and I've never seen it used, except for here.
Well, there's also a highlighter, which is a little wider, and you can put yellow highlighted as if you had one of those felt tip fluorescent highlighter pens.
Okay.
And then you can also throw out and delete. If I wanted to just get rid of this stuff now, I just click on it and press delete.
Oh, I was just wondering, I don't know if you were going to go over this when you were talking about bulleted text, but I noticed a lot of times the bullets don't wrap with a nice second line indent.
Yes.
Is there a way to...
So let's add a new slide here, just a blank one. Let's see, I've got two.
It's
Blank
different than it would be
banner.
in Word.
So I wanted new with placeholder. So I'm going to put text in here. I'm going to do it kind of fast thing here. All right, so I've got a bunch of text here. This doesn't wrap very well, so let's go the quick brown and blue, and blue box jump. So it wraps, right?
There's actually...
So this is what you're talking about, right? When it wraps to the second line?
Yeah, but sometimes it doesn't...
Yes, well, here, now I'm going to explain that. This can most easily, actually, you can control it with the paragraph dialog box here, but I prefer to use the ruler here. The ruler, if I drag the top item, which is the first line indicator, it will adjust the space between the bullet and the text. That doesn't look very good. If I get these guys separated, let's see, if I get this one separated, trying to get this to work the way I want it to, trying to get it to mess up. Well, if it's messed up, then you just align them using these things. This thing controls the space. In fact, that's one of the things that's on one of my slides here. This is it. This is the first line indicator, so that's where the text actually is. My notes actually explain this in greater detail. The upper indicator indicates the position of the actual bullet or number character. If the paragraph is not bulleted, blah, blah, blah. The topmost lower indicator, which is the left indent character, adjusts both the first line and the hanging indent and maintains their relative spacing, whereas the lower indicator allows you to change the space between the bullet. And if they're not aligned, that's just a spacing issue. So this is on the slide in the PowerPoint presentation that I'll send you.
But how do you show the ruler in the first place?
Oh, if it's usually displayed. If it's not, go to the View tab and make sure this checkbox is checked.
Yeah.
Or
So much of this, you just, it's the same thing as Word.
Yes.
Yeah. But you just need to know where to look.
Exactly. And help is useful in that.
Yeah, okay. I'm hoping that your handout, there's a quick list, a setup list. This is what you do. 10 steps for your perfect PowerPoint. I mean,
Well, you'll
select the master first. Select the, whatever slide templates you want. There are certain things that you want to, if you get them in there to start with, you're going to have less headache down the road.
Yeah, well, that's basically what's in the presentation
I know, in the
slide.
presentation,
When you go to build a presentation, if you follow that.
On one page, not examples, just do this, do this, do this.
But doesn't that depend on exactly what you need?
Yeah, well, to answer your question, it doesn't have
obviously.
that.
Yeah.
It doesn't have that. I'll
But
send you what I've got.
That would be fabulous in 10 steps.
Agreed, it depends on what you're doing, but as a generic template of
Yeah.
following the steps that then you can modify for inexperienced
PowerPoint
users,
presenter, right.
It would be useful, that's all.
Right.
So make your own. Just take the text from the slides
Could
and
do
practice
that, yeah, but
by
it's-
taking the bullets
it's-
and putting them on other slides.
I think it's really helpful.
I was going to ask, a lot of companies, they have their own templates. Do we have at
We have our
Stanford our own template?
It's on identity.stanford.edu.
Oh, yeah, right.
Yeah.
That
The approved
probably
colors
would
and
be a
logos.
exactly. That would be a good starting point to even build your own.
Everybody can,
Yeah.
We have,
didn't know about that.
Yeah.
there was an individual that actually did all of this, and we don't have that person, and we're getting ready to hire another person that is going to help establish the brand.
The other thing is that if you do a presentation like once a week or once a day, then you get proficient. But if you do it once a quarter or less than frequent, then you struggle.
Yeah, but you know what?
But that's what your issue, that's our issue.
Well, but here's what I'd advise you to do. Having self-taught myself on all of these programs long before I really learned them, the best way to do that is to write your own procedure. And you'll get it wrong, and you may have to go back and change it. But write your own procedure, and then follow it next time and next time and next time, and you'll probably improve it a little bit each time. If you just get it in a printout, you're going to put it somewhere, and you'll never find it. It won't resonate for you. Make your own. In fact, do it in PowerPoint.
Well, it really helps. It really helps to have a list. I mean, what's the instruction? How do I do it?
It will be a much more valuable list if you create it yourself. It really will be. Trust me on that.
I'm going to come see you.
Own it yourself. Yeah.
Is there a way?
I used to do a lot
Is there a way to
PowerPoint.
lock items not on the master, but actually in your content? Like you kind of have a background and it's really just for that slide, and you want to be able to move stuff on top of it without moving that background. Is there a way to do
I would create a custom layout for that.
you just end up creating a layout?
Yeah. I mean, you can put it there, but then you might inadvertently select it. If it's on the
you can't
layout.
lock it in place.
Yeah. Well, I can't think of any way to do that off the top of my head. That's the role of the layout, or one of the roles of the layout. And it's very easy to create a layout. Just create it, put the background graphic on it, and then apply it to that one slide. You're done.
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
You had something on the right-hand side again, kind of like for selection of reusing slides.
Yeah.
It was kind of like an archive, reference library or something. I'm not-
Yeah,
and that
click
was
on
pretty fast.
home, when you do the new slide,
Uh-huh.
go to reuse slides.
But, but you have to put those slides
Yes.
there in order, you have to pick and choose and
Yes.
say, so you're building like your own kind of library of
Exactly
frequently
so.
used slides or templates or something
Exactly
like that.
so. That
Okay,
is exactly
right.
what you're doing there.
Okay.
And ideally, I mean, you, if I were, Emperor of Stanford, I would probably have a central location where I had that library and have all of the approved Stanford colors and the Stanford logos and everything on templates already, and just give people instructions to go there. But I'm not the Emperor of Stanford.
So we have some slide sort of masters that people have been reusing either individually or as a group. Is there a way to share? Okay, I basically created my own slide master. Can we share
Chester,
those
what was
masters?
that address? please?
Yeah, if you save the file as a template,
Save as a
Identity.
then just email it to people, or put the template on a server location that everyone can access and make it available to them.
In
Okay.
10 minutes or so, we'll need to.
Yeah, okay, so we better wrap it up.
No, you got about 10 minutes.
SharePoint also is a good way to do that. If you have SharePoint and you're comfortable using it, SharePoint is designed to do that kind of thing. And that's where you would use a SharePoint library, but you need a SharePoint. I don't know, do you guys have SharePoint going for this
No.
work group?
No.
Yeah, the downsides of SharePoint outweigh the benefits, but
You just share it, but you can just save the template and share.
yeah.
You have a slide thing you want to share, Tori?
Well, I've been partly, modifying what this board presentation one and using that.
Okay, so I'm going to wrap this up. I'm going to shut down everything.
Thank you very much.
Do we have 2013?
Thanks for
Thank
coming.
you.